There's so many people that are involved in a big situation like this. First and foremost, for me to thank personally our ownership group, John Henry, Tom Werner, and Mike Gordon. And on behalf of the ownership group, Tom Werner is going to say a couple words.
Thank you. I just have a few remarks. As Dave said, this is a great day for the Boston Red Sox and our fans. When we first talked to Dave Dombrowski last August about how to improve the season, the first person he mentioned was David Price. And he mentioned Dave not just because of his talents on the field, but what everyone in baseball knows about David, which is that he's an extraordinary teammate, he's a leader, he's got extraordinary work ethic, and he will help not only the entire pitching staff, but he will be a great leader for all of us. So we are delighted to have him here today. On behalf of the entire organization, we welcome David to Boston.
Thank you, Tom. Go ahead, you can clap for him, whatever. Also, from my perspective, from the organizational perspective, there's so many people that are involved and help make this happen. It was a situation with Mike Hazen here being involved, Brian O'Halloran helping us every step of the way, John Farrell, Frank Wren, and really worked very closely, our President Sam Kennedy, and working hand in hand on this. We had individuals that provided a lot of analytical information, so Zach and his group. We had individuals that put together a great booklet with a lot of different thoughts that Mike Moroff and his group put together. So when you start partaking in such a monumental decision for an organization, which to me is so significant, to be in a spot in which you can bring one of the best pitchers in baseball, a true number one, that makes us so much better in so many ways. And as Tom mentioned, not only, I was very fortunate, not only on the field, but off the field and in the clubhouse. So what David brings to us is a plus in so many ways. So before I introduce some other family members that are all here, I want to introduce officially to you the new pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, David Price. David.
Thank you, obviously, Mr. Werner, Mr. Henry, Dave. You know, you guys, you made it easy for me. I mean, this is a place that has, winning in their history. I definitely think they have winning in their future. They want to win. They know how to win. We're extremely young, and that's what I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of a team that's as young as we are and that can stay young the way that we can. Just to be around those guys, to help them, to be a part of something like this, the passion from the fans, the passion from the community. It's this is a place that has winning in their blood, not just with not just with the Red Sox. Obviously with what the Patriots are capable of doing, the Bruins, Celtics. This is a place that wins, and this is a place that expects to win, and that's what I want to be a part of. I'm very thankful for it. I'm thankful for my family being able to make it out to this, and I'm excited. I am. I'm thrilled. I'm happy to be a Red Sox, and I'm ready to help this organization, this city, win. So thank you.
Thank you, David. There are a few members of the Price family here, and I'm not going to introduce all of them because there's a lot, which we're very happy to have them here. But I do want to first acknowledge David's parents, Bonnie and Debbie. If they'll please stand. And David's girlfriend, Tiffany. And we have some special presentation to Tiffany and to Debbie here from the Boston Red Sox organization. And also, if the rest of the Price extended family could please stand, we'd appreciate it. They're all here. Before we then take some questions, I think it's the appropriate way that we ought to make sure that you're properly attired. And no offense, you look great, but I think you'll even look better here as John and Tom would like to make a presentation to you of your new jersey, number, and Boston Red Sox hat. There's also one other person I want to make sure to acknowledge, because without him involved, this deal doesn't get done. Yeah, go put that thing on. It looks great. And it just does a tremendous job, and somebody that I've known for a long time, but really haven't had a chance to negotiate a lot of contracts with him until recent time periods when really David came on board. But a special thanks to David Representative Bo McInnes for the fine job he did at getting this done. Bo, if you could please stand so people. And Bo's wife Nikki is here also too, so welcome aboard. And I think with that, Kevin, it's up to you.
Okay, we can start with questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand, as there are microphones on either side of the aisles as well as one in the middle. And let's start with Johnny Miller in the back left.
Thanks, Kevin. This is for John Henry. John, in March of 2014, there was an article written by Business Week explaining your philosophy in signing pitchers over 30. What changed your mind?
I don't believe it was a philosophy of signing pitchers. I think I was quoting a study that someone had done, and it's been so long now, I don't really remember the study. I guess I must have forgotten this week what that study was about. It's supposed to be a joke, but not that funny, am I?
David, over here. There is the little issue of your postseason record. So I wanted to get your reaction to that, or an explanation. And Dave, for you, is it a situation where maybe his innings needed to be monitored during the regular season to get him ready for the post?
I think I was just saving all my postseason wins for the Red Sox. So I think you guys will enjoy those. I know good things are going to happen to me in October, and that just hasn't been the case thus far, and I know those tides are going to change. I work too hard not to have success throughout the entire season. I know I can throw the baseball the way that I do in the regular season, in the playoffs, and that time is coming for me, and hopefully it's in 2016.
I don't really think when you have a guy like David that you're monitoring his innings for the postseason, because you first have to always get there. That's what your focus is as a team, and you can never assume you're going to be there, because that's a bad way to operate. So you do everything you can to win your games. John Farrell handles a pitching staff very well, and John is here. I should acknowledge. Where's John hiding over there? There he is, John Farrell, and you can see he almost needs a haircut again, which we're all very happy to see. He's feeling great. Is that John manages a pitching staff smart. If you have a big lead at certain times, he may get him out of there to save some pitches during the regular season, just like you would any time, to preserve them. But I've been around a lot of, David's a good pitcher, great pitcher. And success in the postseason, sometimes it takes a while to come. I've seen him pitch some great games. I know one of the losses for him is we lost 2-1 against Baltimore with an opposite field home run down the right field line that beat us. And then he pitched a shutout the last game of the season to win the division for us. So he's a big game pitcher. Hasn't always happened in the postseason, but a lot of guys that's happened to in their career. I've been around some, and all of a sudden they just start rolling them out and pitch great, and I'm confident that he'll do that for us.
David, as Dave said, he called you a true number one. You have certainly filled that role in Tampa and Toronto in the past. I'm wondering, in addition to getting the ball on opening day and presumably for any game one of a postseason series, what does that mean to you? What comes with the job or role of being a number one or an ace of a rotation, and how do you approach that?
Well, I try not to view any game being bigger, than any other game. But opening day and playoff games, they're definitely, they have a different feel to them. Whether it's, you're starting your season off, or you're starting the playoff off for your organization and your city, and that's something I enjoy. It's something I want to have, and to get those games, it's always fun. There's definitely a special feeling to those days. With the flag on the field and the flyovers, and it's a special day of baseball, and it's something that I definitely relish on, and I'm ready for it.
Okay, Michael over here on the right.
David, playing off of Sean's question, can you describe yourself as a competitor? Your passion is pretty evident on the mound. And also, what do you like as a teammate in between starts, those 4 days, and also away from the field?
I'm definitely a competitor. I want to win. That's why I play the game. I want to be out there for 9 innings. I want to go the entire game. In between the days that, in between starts, I want to be the best teammate I can be. I'm loud. I'm sure the Red Sox players could hear me, the previous 6.5 years I've been in the big leagues whenever I'm on the other side. And that's just me. It's not fake. It's real. It's genuine. I care about my teammates. I get to know them on a personal level. I know their wife's name, their kid's name. I know a lot of stuff about them. That's something that I definitely enjoy doing that. It's not fake. It's real, and that's something I plan on doing here, and I've definitely already started that.
Okay, Brian on the left.
John, to follow up on Johnny's question, how do you, rather than use the magazine article, how do you look at pitchers over the age of 30, and what is it that made David the guy that you wanted to invest this type of money in?
Well, we have as David said, we have a very young team. In past years, I think we've somewhat built around free agents, and I think that in the future, it's more of a case where we're building around young players. Certainly over the next few years, we have a strong core of young players to build around. So this, when we first sat down with Dave and we looked at a 5-year plan, he had a big number for the first slot in the rotation, and we could have gone about it one of two ways. We could have looked to make trades, but as I said, we have a strong core of young players that we want to hold together, and we knew it was iffy to go out into free agency, whether or not we could attract David. As Tom said, the first time we sat before Dave made his decision to come here, the first time we sat down with him, David's name came up, and he said, this is the kind of pitcher we want to go after. So in this year, at this time, we know that we're going to be strong going forward. The one place we really had a need for is at the top of the rotation. And there are exceptions to any rule, and certainly this is one of the most exceptional pitchers. When you look at his record, he's putting up, for the American League, historical numbers, or at least bordering on that already at this stage of his career. So we've had a tremendous tradition here of Pedro, Curt Schilling, and Josh Beckett, and other great pitchers who've come through here. This is an exciting time. We're going to see one of the best pitchers in baseball here every 5 days. It'll be exciting for our fans, but it'll be really exciting, I think, for the rest of his teammates when he takes that mound every 5th day.
Kevin, can I follow up on that? Because just from my perspective coming in, and as we've talked about bringing David on board, I really give ownership a lot of credit because philosophically you can understand certain lengths of contracts. We all understand that. There's a great deal of risk that's involved. But when we sat down and talked about what our club needed, we really emphasized three things. One, somebody that could help us at the back end of the bullpen because of Koji's situation, and if he went down, we needed somebody to help us. A fourth starter, a fourth outfielder, and a number one starter. We really felt that that was important. They're very difficult to find number one starters. And you have a choice of doing it in a couple ways. First of all, if you're going to trade for a number one starter, you wouldn't have the same players that will be in uniform now for the Boston Red Sox on opening day, because those are the type of players that people want. And we decided we would like to keep those. And really, if you're going to go out and sign a legitimate number one starter, you're going to have to be in a position to give the length of contract that we did. And we analyzed it, we took the best risk we possibly can, but also from an ownership perspective, they listened and they supported what we were doing.
Okay, we're going to go with Dan in the back left.
David, just your thoughts on pitching. You have a great record at Fenway Park. Your thoughts on pitching here, the atmosphere, the intensity, and have you had any conversations with David Ortiz yet? He was all for, signing you when he talked with the Boston Red Sox.
I do look forward to pitching here. I definitely enjoy it. I feel like home plate's right on top of you, and that's something that I talked about, and that's not always the same in different ballparks. Whether it's the backdrop or just your depth perception of how you view home plate. That's a big deal, and home plate definitely feels close to me here at Fenway, and I feel like that is definitely part of why I've thrown the ball well here for the most part. And Big Papi and myself, we're both competitors. I mean, what he's done for this organization and the game of baseball is extremely special, and I'm ready to be one of his really good friends. I mean, I watch him from across the field, and I always get to see him on TV and stuff like that. And the guy's a competitor, and that's what I am too. Whenever I got traded to Detroit 2 years ago, I could not stand Ian Kinsler. We both absolutely hated each other, and now we're both one of each other's favorite teammates and favorite players, and that's the game of baseball, and that's life. And I'm definitely open to cheering for Big Papi every at bat, and I think we're gonna have a good relationship.
Okay, Butch also in the back left.
Yeah, David, over here. Why Boston? I mean, you would have had some other choices, or probably did. And what do you want Red Sox fans to know about you? I think they know some things about you, but you're going to pitch for them, in front of them now.
I love smiling, man. I surround myself with positivity. I want to be in a positive environment, and that's what I focus on. Life's too short to have negative stuff going on in your life or around you, and that's definitely what I've focused on, and that's what makes me happy. But I want to win games. I want to be here. I think I chose Boston because they have winning in their past. They've done it here recently as well, and I really think that they're going to do it in the future. I mean, with all the young kids that we have on this team, and then the young kids that we have in the minor league system with the number one rated minor league organization in all of baseball, that's what you want to be a part of. That's what I want to be a part of. I love being around young kids, man. I mean, I'm 30 years old, but I'm 8 years old at heart, and I think anybody that knows me or has been my teammate, kind of would tell you the same thing. So the youth that we have, the team that we can put out there on opening day right now, I think that's very special.
Okay, I'm going to stay in the left with Jason.
David, what was your day like in Boston today, and what have your interactions been like with people on the streets or Red Sox fans and social media or on the street or wherever?
Well, had people touching me all day, with all the doctors. I did a lot of the same stuff, over and over with different doctors. It's the best blood I've given. I think her name was, I don't want to mess her name, I think it was Marcy. I hope that's correct, but she said she works for the Red Sox, and she comes into the locker room and takes blood, so I will definitely be in her line during spring training and whatnot. But it's been a good day. I mean, we saw we saw a police officer over at the hospital, and he was just going nuts, and that definitely made me feel really good. That was my first interaction with with a Red Sox fan in Boston, so that definitely started my day off well.
Okay, Alex, also on the left.
This is for Dave or Mike. You've obviously had a young core coming up through a young position core coming up and establishing itself. How important was it to you guys to have someone who's kind of an established top of the rotation guy to help, from Eduardo Rodriguez on down into the guys who are less established as major leaguers? Was it to have a guy like Dave? And then a separate one for Mike. How different was the idea of going after a top of the rotation or solution via free agency versus the conversations that had happened perhaps before Dave came on board?
Well, I think, look, what we've worked towards the last few years, developing that young core draft. We've done a really good job, I think, in the draft through development, getting that young core of players that, David talked about. What was really impressive was when we went down and had dinner, how interested David was in all the players that we had on our team. He wanted to know about the entire 25-man roster, down through the 40-man roster. Who's going to be on his team? Who are these guys that are going to be part of that next great Red Sox team, the team that he's going to help lead? And so that's been a big focus for us, but clearly we didn't have somebody of David's caliber at this point in time, and so that's what pointed us in this direction to go and get somebody that was really going to anchor that staff and really lead that group of guys moving forward. I think in relation to the second question, I think coming off of the last few years, where we are through the last 4 years, I think this is a pretty unique situation for us. Guys weren't in that position just yet to take over for what David's going to bring to us next year, and so we felt like the time was right to do this.
Okay, Jen on the left.
Dave, kind of heading into the winter meetings next week, you got your number one, but how much, movement do you foresee in the rotation kind of from here until spring training?
Well, we've thought a little bit about it, but we have more starters than we have positions, and I guess we'll just deal with that starting next week. We really couldn't do anything because we still had to get to this point today. Everybody will be together next week with the clubs. We've already fielded numerous phone calls from different organizations talking to us about our depth. We like our depth. We like our pitching staff. I think when you add a guy like David and then you start going down, it really changes the look of your staff. So we'll look to improve how any way we can, but we're open-minded to see what takes place.
Okay, Julian.
Dave, you mentioned it's come up twice in the conversation today, but just can you explain the context from the meeting, I guess, in August when you brought up David's name and then the first time you sat down and what that meeting was like, what you said about him and what you liked about him? And then for Price, you mentioned this too, the importance of winning for you, but you spent a lot of time in an organization that won despite not having the most resources in the world. And now you're coming to a place that has a lot of resources and has like an expectation to win. Kind of what's the difference for you being in one organization where you're winning despite that and being in an organization where you kind of see that they do have those things, they do have those expectations?
Good, you're going to start.
That's very big. I mean, that's something Mr. Henry told me in Nashville. He was like, we have the ability to sign you right now for X amount of dollars, and then next year we can still add more pieces to that, and that's it's very appealing to be a part of that. At trade deadlines, teams like this a lot of times are they're buyers, and they make moves and they add big pieces from around the game, and to be a part of that, I feel like is that's extremely special. If you can just help put your team in a position at that time of the year, they're going to do everything in their power to make us better, and I think that's special, and a lot of guys don't get to experience that.
Okay, go to Nick over here in the front right.
Yeah, David. I just need to finish because in that, to me, when I talked about David in our initial meetings with John and Tom and Mike Gordon, it was a situation where when we talk about trying to build a ball club and a winning club, I think it's extremely important to have a number one starter if you can. And I think not only from an ability perspective, but what it does for your staff, it takes the pressure off of some of the people, allows your manager to count on that guy to give innings. He can work his bullpen a little bit differently on other days, and if you have that person, a lot of times the other pitchers in the rotation follow suit. And And I emphasize that. The other thing I talked about is I'm a very strong believer in character. And being fortunate enough to cross paths with David in Detroit. I didn't know him other than I knew he was a really good pitcher. But what a quality individual he was and how well he was received in the clubhouse and the community. And I had more than one person tell me, from a player perspective and from a staff perspective, that he was the best teammate that they ever had. And I think that was the type of thing I emphasized to them, not only ability-wise, but the type of person that he is.
Okay, Nick?
Yeah, David. Hi. Given your competitiveness against the Red Sox for so long and your little incident with Ortiz, etc., are you astonished that you're a Red Sox right now?
A little bit. You know, I think that, you know, Boston was special to me, you know, both good and bad, you know, throughout my career. You know, that's probably the biggest game I've ever been a part of was, you know, Game 7 of I won't mention it, but, you know, if that game went differently, you know, I might not be sitting right here right now because I might not have, you know, put the career together that I did because, you know, the confidence that just that game gave me, you know, in itself, you know, being in that big, you know, situation and you know, helping the team that I was pitching for at the time with Tampa, you know, get to that next level was, you know, very big for me. And then, you know, the bad ones as well. I mean, I can, you know, learn something from every experience, and I think that's what I've done. And I've had a lot of experiences, you know, at Fenway and just pitching against Boston in general.
And is there an advantage, indeed, having been in the American League East as long as you have, pitching against some of these teams?
Well, I'm familiar with them. That's for sure. And, you know, I'm comfortable. You know, I know all the parks. I know the hotels we'll be at. You know, whenever I was traded from Tampa to Detroit, you know, everything was kind of new to me because that was a very new city. You know, that was a place that I went for, you know, 3 times a year. But, you know, coming to Boston, I mean, I know my way around this city. You know, I get on a hubway and I start pedaling. I mean that's something I love doing. And, you know, I would always tweet about it whenever I come to Boston. I get my hubway and I'd ride down, I forget the name of the street now with all the shops on it, but that was something I always did. You know, I'd ride around the city. I'd get coffee. I guess, you know, I can start drinking Dunkin'. You know, I had some of that today. So it's.
We're not going to let David drive. Way in the future, we're going to drive him to Fenway Park.
But I'm familiar with this city, and, you know, familiarity comes with, you know, or comfort comes with familiarity, and that's. For me, that's huge. I like to be comfortable. I like to be happy, and, you know, I see myself being very happy here.
Okay, John?
David, you've been very active on social media as a player. I'm curious how your interactions with Red Sox fans have changed since this news broke compared to before.
You can.
First of all,
well, it's changed a lot over the years. I mean, Jarrett and I, we didn't. Well, he wasn't very fond of me, but, you know, I never had a problem. But now, you know, that guy's asked me to come stay at his house. We'll get bunk beds and, you know, all that type of stuff. You know, I love everybody. You know, I promise you that. You know, there's nobody on the planet that I hate. You know, that's not me. It's not in my character. It's not in my family's character. You know, I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. And, you know, if some Red Sox fans, you know, aren't happy with me, I mean, that's okay, because can't please everybody, and, you know, the ones that, you know, definitely want me to be here and are happy, you know, those are I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna pitch my heart out for them. In the days that I'm not pitching, you know, I'm gonna be the best teammate I can be and help this team win.
And just one other thing, why stay in the AL East? You could have gone to the National League, faced pitchers, probably had an easier time of it. Why stay in the toughest division?
I didn't want to run away from it. You know, and that's what happens a lot. You know, guys leave this division because this is, you know, I feel like it's the toughest division in baseball to pitch in the AL East. You know, the parks, you know, make it tough as well. But, you know, hopefully I can, you know, continue to throw the baseball the way that I have. And for me in baseball, the main goal every year is to win a World Series, but, you know, my main goal before I ever sign my first professional contract is to go to the Hall of Fame, and to do that, you know, while spending your entire career in the American League, you know, it's pretty special. I'm not sure how many times it's been done, so that's something that I want to be a part of.
Okay, Tim on the left.
David, Boston's also known to be negative at times when things go south. What makes you feel like you're equipped to handle that, the negativity that can happen in this town?
I've experienced it. I know it's not always going to go good out there on the field, and I'm 30 years old now. I feel like I've been through a lot of things, on the baseball field, and I've learned, how to handle those things, whether it was, good experiences or bad experiences, and whether I handled them the right way or the wrong way, I still learn from those experiences, and that's something I'm always trying to do. I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to learn how to handle certain situations better, and I think that I've done that, and I'm ready for Boston, and I'm ready for it.
Okay, Butch.
David, back here. Dave mentioned that, Red Sox looking for a top of the rotation guy. I'm curious, doesn't seem like you shy away from the term ace, but what is an ace to you, and what do you see your role as on this team?
I want to pitch deep into ball games. That's something I definitely take a lot of pride in. I want to try and give that bullpen a day off, and when I'm not pitching, I'm there for not only all my other teammates, but all the other starters and all the other pitchers. I'm a guy that likes to watch bullpens. If you want to ask me anything about grips or how I approach games or how I approach hitters, it's, to me, being a baseball player, or for me to be a pitcher, is I can learn more, by watching other guys. They don't have to be left-handed. They can be a right-handed pitcher. I can learn just as much, by watching them as I can, by going through that experience out there on the mound. And I just give everything to all my teammates, and I can learn stuff from hitters. I can't wait to sit down and talk to Big Papi about what he thinks while he's hitting. He's arguably the greatest DH to ever play the game. So just by him talking to me, that can make me better in itself, and Pedroia as well. I can learn from everybody, and I want to be there for my teammates. I will be there for my teammates, and I think that's what an ace is. You're not going to shy away from the big game. You want the ball. You definitely want to be able to pitch deep into ball games, and I want to be a leader.
Okay, last few questions here, starting with Johnny in the back.
David, where did you get that competitiveness, and will you be under any undue pressure because of your contract?
I think I get the competitive probably from my family. My brothers they're a lot older than me, so whenever we played sports, whenever I was a kid, I did never win because they were always older, bigger, faster, stronger, and I lost a lot as a kid. Whether it was in video games or just playing, different sports in the backyard. I definitely think that I got that from them. I've got a very athletic family. We do a lot of different things. If you go camping and you're doing horseshoes and volleyball or whatever it is. We're doing a lot of stuff that are competitive. Playing cards. Whenever at Thanksgiving and Christmas, we're always in a competitive environment, and I think that's really where I got my competitiveness from. What was the second part of your question?
Will you be under any undue pressure because of your contract?
No, I don't think so. It's I want to be great, and that's what I tell myself. Whenever you guys see me talking to myself on the mound, 90% of the time I'm telling myself to be great. And that's whether I'm throwing the ball well at the time, or if I'm struggling, I got bases loaded and it's 3-0, and I got nobody out. That's what I'm telling myself to do. And if I go out there and throw the baseball the way that I'm capable of throwing, I know the expectations for all of Red Sox Nations will be met, and if I come anywhere close to meeting the expectations that I set for myself, I'm very positive that everybody else will be happy with that.
Okay, with no further questions, we'll conclude this portion of the press conference, and each of the gentlemen to my left will be available for one-on-ones in the area immediately to my right. Thank you, everyone.